So our mics are down, so we're okay.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Yes, and how many seas?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're live here from the beautiful Tampa, Florida, American Dreamers Studios. We're live with your host, Bill Sepulcher.
Yes, and how many
30 seconds. Bill, go.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the American Dreamer Show. This is the third edition. And I'm here with my trusty crew in the studio with James Worley and John Casimiro. And I'm driving them crazy. But
let's be clear about this now. James is engineering this, and
I know, but I'm getting back at them.
I'm.
Because they're driving me crazy.
Would you call me a co-host, or
you can
or am I
be
a special guest?
You are whatever you want to be in this world. But right now, I'm trying to get through this show for the next 30 minutes.
Oh, you're going to get through it, and
Okay.
it's going to be longer than 30 minutes, hopefully.
Possibly. Well, it's been quite a week, and I just posted my October Part 2, November Part 1 newsletter with an unabashed expression of my deep affection for our democratic process of voting, complete with pictures and words of encouragement, and address the political nature of our getting out and vote and other poignant issues of the day, and that's at Joe's lifelong legacy. And I want to be positive and everything, but there's been some things that have been happening that, and I really, in good conscience, can't let it slither away. There's a lot of parallels to political unrest that brings about scapegoats. As we've been finding, and the economy is supposedly great, but there's still a groundswell of people, many people not finding jobs available at salaries that are commensurate with their experience, training, and education.
I'll agree to that.
All right, so we're working on it, and hopefully we're going to have some good results with everybody working together. This is one country, it's one America, and that's how we got here. So I want to share with you a couple of things. I'm starting to get some feedback, John.
You're getting feedback
Well,
on the podcast?
No, not from the podcast. From our previous two episodes, and there's a very dear lady that I've been working on with a small group in my community for some community involvement or development, and it just happens her name is Thelma, which is a very endearing name. That's my mother's name. And we had a meeting on Friday to get more involved our community. So she said, Bill, I went to my lanai and I relaxed. I took out the podcast, and I was very pleased. I was very relaxed. It was very soothing.
She actually listened to it.
That's what it sounded like.
Okay.
So
she was able to go to download the Spreaker app.
Spreaker app.
That's a very technical woman.
She got
very
my vote.
savvy, yeah.
Yeah, so she did that. But then the next part of the discussion sort of floored me. She said, that must take a lot of time. And, with the newsletter and the podcast and the blog post, she says, what does your wife think about all that? It must take a lot of time. Well, I said, I'm not married, but I'm entertaining possibilities. But she's married. She has a very nice husband. So I was kind of thinking, John.
What does your wife think about this?
I'm not married.
Oh,
John.
right. Yeah, I forgot.
Yes. So anyway, but who knows? And then the other thing I told James, I said, we can turn this into a Lonely Hearts Club. But
here we go.
No, but I'm not lonely. And that's okay. That's all right. And but let's get on with this because we got a lot to do in a short time. And one of the first things that I want to share with you is the legacy.
The legacy. You're talking about your dad.
Yes, the American Dreamer.
You wrote an entire book about your dad.
Well, he
he gave you some help.
Oh, he wrote his whole life.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to share with you, because he knew about a legacy. He knew early on, because there were letters in high school and college, all through his life. He got $1 for his first letter to the paper. It was called Embarrassing Moments.
Your dad never came to you and actually asked you to write a book about him.
Well, he knew.
He did?
He knew. Well, between 1997 and 2008, we sat down and we converted 120 pages of his handwritten notes all through his life.
Okay.
And we typed it up on a computer. But there were no pictures. But in the final book, when we came up with American Dreamer, there's 460 pages and a lot of pictures. But I found so much what America means to me, handwritten notes, reaching the magic number, which I talked about in our last podcast. But I found this written notes on the envelope. I'll show John here. This is in the book here on page 380.
If you have the book, read along.
Yeah. And it says, "To my mother and father, who left me no legacy except for longevity and even disposition, the energy and the stamina to meet all life's problems honestly, forthrightly." I wrote these words down on an envelope as I was finishing up my tour of duty. Then he writes, he says, yes, I was kind of surprised my folks left me no legacy. But he says, yes, my folks didn't leave me a legacy. They left me so much more. What they left me was the basic building blocks, which were much more vital to being successful in life, contributing to the health, wealth, and the arts, and paying back in some small way what it meant to be a citizen of this great country. And it's all through the thread through the whole book, because on page 300 is an article that he saved, and I put it in the book, consider writing about your legacy. And it spelled out some of the guidelines. This was in the article and where you can go to get more information. So I beseech you, if you have any interest, your family, your history of what happened and how you came to be and why you are where you are, start saving now and put them in a good place. My dad was meticulous. Unfortunately, he skipped a generation, but I still have the stuff. It's not organized, John. It's not, you see the...
What I want to know who's going to write about your legacy?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to adopt a son. I'm working on that, believe me. Okay. But I just want to share with you, he built a museum. He helped build a museum. There's a lot of people involved. But it took years, and he traveled to New York, John, because the collection of the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden was a city block in Manhattan on the east side. And for 2 years, he left from Washington on Monday and came back Thursday night. He organized the staff, worked with the curator. Everything was in a warehouse, and they cataloged all the exhibits, the art, sculpture. Over 6,000.
So you were living down where in
I was
Maryland?
in Maryland.
You in Maryland?
This is in the early 70s.
He would commute to New York for the week to work, and he'd come
set
back
up the staff.
Wow.
Does everything for 2 years, and then he'd come back and have to battle Congress on getting budget and money and equipment and everything. And he wrote about meeting Mr. Hirshhorn, who donated all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's really beautiful. Some of the interaction and conversations. It's all there. I mean, you could build a museum. And later on, when he built Ruth Eckerd Hall, he was the chief finance officer.
Right.
You could
years and years later.
Yeah, after he retired.
Yeah.
But you could build a performing arts center just from the notes and items, budgets. But I just want to share with you, because I'm not making this up. After he retired, and everywhere he left, whether it was a Veterans Administration, Maritime Administration, small business, it was a bittersweet. They had going away parties, but they were sad. You know, like when he left the Veterans Administration to go to Maritime, and they said, well, anchor's away, Joe, and we're going to miss you. And but this was a postcard from one of the women that he hired. And many of these people had to leave their, livelihood in Washington to come, in New York to come to Washington and spend years. And many of them are still working. But this woman sends a postcard. It has a picture of one of the art work that's in the Hirshhorn. And it's handwritten, but I typed it up. And this gives you an idea of what this man meant. Let me share this with you. It says, Dear Mr. Sefakar, you're as much a part to everyone of the Hirshhorn as the beautiful works of art. And I know everyone will miss you. It's you who've kept us smiling with your kind, calm leadership. I'm the one who appreciates cordially, Betsy Hammer. And this followed him everywhere. But there's so much more that's part of this. He wrote about philosophy and life. And next week I'm going to share something with you because of the rallies and stuff that I think he had to send something. He always wrote letters to everybody. But here's a letter that he had. It was dated June 11th, 1998. And it says, just a little too late. It was a little blurb from Johnny Cash, the great country western singer. It says, I can sing of death. I've seen a lot of it, but I'm obsessed with life. I've seen that dark place. I fight the beast in me every day. I've won a few rounds with God's help, and that's what matters most to me now. Feeling good about my relationship with John. That's Johnny Cash.
Wow.
So this is a little spiritual vein here we're taking. And
so Johnny Cash died in 2008?
And he had a rough life, but he contributed a lot, produced a lot. So my dad continued on this vein, and this is how he always would like to add on. He says, I never thought about my relationship with God. I just assumed that I had one and that it was good. Now and then, I thought about family values. I never had doubts that I had family values. They were good and they were strong. And I never had too many doubts about having imbued my children with family values. It seemed to have taken it for granted. I seem to have taken it for granted that they had the same feelings, the same doubts, the same feelings of being fair and being honest, the best that we know how. What was the best way to tackle your relationship to God with your family values that my parents instilled in us, and we weren't aware that this was happening? This is my dad's parents. We never sat down and discussed our problems. You see, they never did speak English, and we conversed in Ladino, a form of Spanish. I do not recall having deep conversations. I do not recall having deep conversations with my one brother and 5 sisters. And here's a very interesting analogy. It says, like aliens in spaceships, we found that this is the most important thing in our lives, was transferred to us painlessly. He had a way with words.
Transferred painlessly.
And
well, it's true though. I mean, with religion, some people are brought up with it. Some people are not. Some people to a more degree or a less degree. But it sounds like your dad was. He had some. He
was rooted in his faith.
Yeah, but they didn't beat it into his head. It just kind of took place.
And that's part of the Judeo-Christian roots, I think, that covers that. And anybody else that wants to jump in. So we'll get to it a little bit later, John. I was going to start my first musical selection.
Oh, yes.
I know how excited
this is always a treat.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting you should mention that, because yesterday was trick or treat. I hope this is more treat than trick. Okay. I am taking out this very special guitar.
Tell me a little bit about that guitar. It's a 12-string.
Yes. And I owe my dad and my mom this guitar. My dad passed away in July of 2014, and it was sort of one of his gifts. And
that was his guitar?
No.
No, he bought.
He helped front the money up front.
Gotcha. So
And,
so now, just teach me a little bit about music here. Now, a 12-string. I remember seeing Jimmy Page playing a 12-string, but it had a double neck on it. And this is an acoustic 12-string.
Yes, and the music, it sounds like angels singing, if I can get it right. And what happened was I went to find something suited to my taste, and this just jumped out at me. And I said, "Wow, I'm really blessed with this." And the selection that I'm going to share with you is from Al Stewart. And Al Stewart was an accomplished guitarist and arranger. He was a balladeer. He had very popular songs, The Year of the Cat in the late 1970s, early 80s. And this selection is called Timeless Skies. It paints a beautiful picture of a time that's in the past, beautiful settings, and time that we wish we can go back to. And I think you'll enjoy it, and I'm looking to share this with you. While traveling northwards on a backcountry lane, I came on the village where first I grew. I stopped to climb up the hill once again, looking down from the tracks to the gray slate roof. I watched the village moving as the day went slowly by. In the fields we lay, here my very first love and I. Under timeless Arcadian skies, under timeless Arcadian skies, the old canal lies sleeping under the sky. The barges are gone to a lost decay. On overgrown banks here, lovers' footsteps went by, long before ever the road were made. And in our turn we passed there and carved our names on trees as the days washed by like waves of an endless sea. Under timeless Arcadian skies, under timeless Arcadian skies. Time runs through your fingers, you never hold on until it is gone. Some fragments just linger with you like snow in the spring, hanging on. I left the village behind in the night to fade like a sail on the darkening seas. The shifts and changes in the patterns of life will weather it more than the centuries. And in another village, in a far-off foreign land, the new day breaks out, opening up its hand, and the sun has the moon in his eyes as he wanders the timeless skies, and the sun has the moon in his eyes as he wanders the timeless skies.
Okay.
We did that. That was decent. I've done better. It's on my second album. I have 2 CDs. Didn't make a lot.
You have two. You have 2 releases.
Yeah. You have that. You don't have a CD cover there. I'll talk about it on the next. And one of my guests, who I really want, I have to talk to her. Let me get this situated. We need to put.
You're having a problem with that 12-string. It's so it's beefy. It's a big piece of machinery. You need
Not only that,
you need a roadie for that thing.
Well, let me tell you, that is a Martin, and that was big bucks. And I was so blessed that I could, at that time, I said, it was a gift. So, but we'll talk about that on our next show. But Joy Katzen-Guthrie, a very dear friend of mine, and one of the most talented, creative musicians. And I hope she can join us and share her story and her music. We're going to work on that. Okay. So, we talked about some spiritual things, and I want to share with you a story. This is part of It Worked For Me, but I think everybody should have some kind of spiritual roots. I'm not talking religious, not talking institutional kind of stuff, but something could, anchor them.
Something to believe in.
Yes,
yeah.
So true. And I've had spiritual advisors along the way that have made a difference. But this is a story of my growing up, and it's part of It Worked For Me, and I'll be sharing a little more of that.
What does that work for me?
Because I've had a lot of things that happened to me, most of it good. I'd say all of it. I can attest to that. So It Worked For Me means that if it didn't work for me, I wouldn't be here telling you or playing my music, and that's what I attribute It Worked For Me. These are things that I found out, not maybe at that time that I found out, but I learned that, wow, these are things that helped, and I want to share it.
But It Worked For Me, is that an upcoming movie you're starring in, or what is it?
Well, I was told that for my dad's book, to get that into a movie would be about $385,000. I think I could do a budget. Maybe I'll do about $85,000.
But anyway, but it's actually going to be a book, right?
It's the book.
Okay.
And I was sharing with you.
Were we not supposed to share that with the audience yet?
No,
okay.
No. I'm
okay.
sharing
I
that.
thought maybe it was a secret.
Oh, it is not. I've been saying if you were to listen to these podcasts, you'd figure it out. But the thing is that Dad's book, American Dreamer, originated in my blog post, Joe's Lifelong Legacy. So if somebody wants to foot the bill...
.com.
.com, exactamente. That's my Italian. So anyway...
I think that's Spanish.
Spanish, that too. I'm trilingual. Okay. All right. So it will evolve somehow. If somebody wants to spend money to publish the book and provide for a musical entree, I'd be
a musical. That'd be awesome. Like a Broadway musical of It Worked For Me.
Da, 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 da. Tap dancing too. Okay. Anyway, this is a story about when I was growing up in Long Island and Syosset.
Long Island.
On Long Island.
You got to say it right.
And I was, having the same middle America kind of stuff, upbringing, and we played, what do you call it, street ball and...
stickball?
Yeah, and baseball. And the ball went on Aunt Marion's lawn. I didn't know her Aunt Marion at the time. So she said, if the ball comes out on one more time on my lawn, you're going to be in trouble. So naturally the ball came out on her lawn. And so she said, okay, come inside. They pointed, my buddies, my little buds, said, you go in there, Bill, don't worry. So I said, okay, I'll go in. And she had a real huff and puff on her face. And she says, she comes in, closes the door. She says, do you like chicken? I said, yeah. So she had a whole chicken dinner. And she loved to cook. Matter of fact, one of the fellas on the block growing up, he just became a chef.
Wait a second. So this woman who...
Aunt Marion.
Aunt Marion. Was it an actual aunt?
No.
She, they just call... You just call them
everybody, because she was something. So she invited me in. She thought I was... She said, acted very stern in the beginning. Said, okay, you come inside. The ball went on the lawn. You got to come in here. I'm going to talk to you. Oh. And I got inside, and she had this chicken dinner. Well, I took care of her lawn, and Guy Minetti was her husband. I had the lawns. And so my father got a job with the Small Business Administration in Washington, and we had to move. They moved from New York, Long Island, to Washington. And at the time, I had graduated high school, and I was going to college. I had a girlfriend, and we thought we were serious. So I wanted to stay in New York. And when Aunt Marion found out about it, she said, well, my son Peter, who was older than us, and he was getting married and moving into New York City. She said, we have an extra room. Why don't you stay there with us? Stay here with us. So I did. This is where... if I'm writing a script, you wouldn't come up with a more astounding set of circumstances the way it unfolded. They said Peter was Marion's son from her first marriage. She was married to a German soldier in World War II. Yes, a German war bride. It would seem that Guy Minetti, as World War II was coming to an end and the Marshall Plan was taking effect to build a decimated Europe, the Army Corps of Engineers, one of the assignments was help to restore Germany's infrastructure, and that's where Guy met Marion and brought her back to the United States. What happened in Germany was a situation that can happen anywhere. Marion was 16 years old, had a very bad home life, and decided to run off with what would become a German soldier, and Peter was the outgrowth of that union. The soldier was subsequently killed in action, and after the war, Guy met Marion and decided to take her and Peter back to the States. And I said Peter was about 5 years older than the rest of us on Lindcrest Street where we lived. It's so interesting because from what I remember, he loved to be out on the lawn with a soccer ball. And for us, soccer was pretty foreign to us. I had to take
especially back then.
Yeah, in the early 60s. So, Peter got married and said he was moving to the city. So, Guy worked as an engineer in Manhattan. And he would take the Long Island Railroad and come back and forth every day. Like clockwork, and Aunt Marion would have a 6-7 course dinner waiting.
Wow.
It was amazing.
What did she cook for you the second time? You remember?
Oh, everything. It just
she cooked. Did she cook German meals?
Like, everything. Well,
yeah?
the guy was Italian, so Guy Minetti. So she cooked the whole.
Gotcha.
And there are two things that stand out in my mind. One is that if you spilt anything on the table, you had to pay a penny or a nickel. It was amazing because it was very fun. The other thing was they said grace before every meal, each meal, and this was kind of something new to me because. We have our own way in Judaic religion and culture that, say of acknowledging the Lord, and it wasn't a regular routine. So it was obvious I had to come up with a suitable grace accompaniment, and that was when it was my turn to say grace. So my first inclination was to check with Cantor Felixberger. He was about 8 houses down the street, and I told him of the situation. And he knew about my staying with the Menonites. He goes into his library, and with his wide-ranging prayer and liturgical books, comes up with a appropriate supplication. Little did I know, John, that I would have this item would have such a profound effect on me. It was a short verse, and I've mouthed it over 100,000 times, 1 million in 50 years. At least 4 or 5 times a day, and here it is, very short and very sweet. Praised be God, whose food we eat, and through whose goodness we live.
No, that's simple.
Praised be God, whose food we eat, and through whose goodness we live. The prayer is now not said just before eating. I have embellished it, which I'll share with you later time, but anytime a good thing, wonders, miracles, even when there's a sad thing that comes to light or occurs. And I say it maybe when I see an animal dead on the road or a sunrise or a sunset. So this is an outgrowth of a situation of being with Aunt Marion and Guy Minetti during this pivotal time. It's pretty amazing being in this situation. The ripple effect of my rest of my life. Because of all this, German war bride thought enough of me that she wanted to reach out and help me. Created a very interesting situation because she was meticulous, housekeeper, homemaker, and didn't even want any money. They said, don't worry, but my folks, I think, agreed to $75 stipend a month, which included gourmet food you couldn't imagine. She even ironed my underwear and cooked desserts, and it really created a little bit of a rivalry with my mother, who was also a good cook. Every time I went to Washington, my mother would have some kind of great creation
because she was competing with Aunt Marion.
Oh, yes. So as you can see, this was an enduring time for me to be able to grow up and mature. As I was on my own, and then with my relationship, it was nice, and I enjoyed the company. We got along splendidly, but it was being late. But my being late, and I think I talked about last time, was a thorn. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm here and now, and we got to sort of close on things that I want to share with you. One of the items is the quotations that's on my Twitter account, Joe's Legacy, and also my Facebook, William.Cephakar. So let me share with you some of the quotes, because this has been a very attractive thing. People have over 2,500 followers and people that have been commenting on this. So let me read you a few. I have about 10 or 12. This is from Irma Bombeck. She used to be a very popular television host. She says, if you can't make it better, you can laugh at it. Okay? And when you have to make a choice and don't make it, that in itself is a choice. William James. And this is a Latin proverb that would appear. The truth is my light. And here's from the Dalai Lama. Though money and power, you cannot solve all problems. Through money and power, you cannot solve all problems. The problem in the human heart. The problem is the human heart, and you must solve first. And that is, the problem is in the human heart and must be solved first. This is from Epictetus, this Greek philosopher. He is a wise man who does not grieve for things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has not. And another one, this is good. We have 2 years, my tongue and my mouth, and this is what I'm talking about. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak.
That's a good one.
That is. And only the educated are free. And this is one, Robert Frost. Happiness makes up in height for what it lacks in length. I like that.
I like that one too.
And music is the vernacular of the human soul, from Jeffrey Latham. I try to embody that.
Very true.
And this is Oliver Wendell Holmes. A man's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains the original dimensions. That's we got a few more here. There are 3 constants in life: change, choice, and principles. Stephen Covey. Worry does not empty the soul of its sorrow. It empties the today of its strength. Corrie ten Boom. And George Bernard Shaw. Dad wrote about it. I have to share this with you. A few of their future podcasts. Some really powerful stuff. Dad like George. It says, life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
There you go.
George Bernard Shaw. And we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing.
That's true too.
Okay, and here's this. We are not made wise. We are made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility for our future. And the last one, George Bernard Shaw. Beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. Beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. Okay. So those are some of the things. What do you say, guys? We have time for one more song, or what do you want to do?
We've got time for another song.
Okay, let me have some of my magic potion.
What is this song, Ola?
This is Jimmy Buffett.
Margaritaville?
No, that's another one. That was also one way. Changes in Latitude.
Oh. I never thought of Jimmy Buffett as a deep artist.
He is. The songs. Fruitcakes and Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And interesting. I gotta recant something. My first intro on the podcast, I was saying good morning, afternoon, evening, and I was trying to cover the whole spectrum. And I said, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. That was one of his songs that he did with Alan Parton. And I actually made a faux pas. I said it was James Taylor. And now James Taylor, I have dear regard for. I play a bunch of his stuff, which I hope you'll hear. But it wasn't James Taylor that said 5 o'clock somewhere.
No, absolutely not James Taylor.
So
I actually got to see James Taylor earlier this year.
Wonderful. Well, this interesting song, one of the ones that I first learned, and I'll show you the over 35 years of sheet music on that. And I think James would like this song. And it's called Sweet Baby James.
Yes, right.
There is a young cowboy, he lives on the range. But we'll get to that another time.
Another song for another podcast.
Yes, hopefully. Okay.
So this is
James
Jimmy
Taylor.
This is Jimmy Buffett coming up, right? See?
See?
I'm here to keep you on track, Bill.
Keep me honest, buddy. Okay. And it has a little flavor to it. It's a little extra spicy. Okay, here we go. I took off for a weekend last month just to try and recall the whole year. All of the places and all of the faces, wondering where they all disappeared. I didn't ponder the question too long. I was hungry, went out for a bite. Ran into a chum with a bottle of rum, and we wound up drinking all night. It's those changes in latitude, changes in attitude. Nothing remains quite the same. With all of our running and all of our cunning, if we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane. Reading departure signs in some big airport reminds me of the places I've been. Visions of good times that brought so much pleasure makes me wanna go back there again. If it suddenly ended tomorrow, I could somehow adjust to the fall. Good times and riches and son of a bitches, I've seen more than I can recall. These changes in latitude, changes in attitude, nothing remains quite the same. Through all of the islands and all of the highlands, if we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane. I think about Paris when I'm high on red wine. I wish I could jump on a plane. And so many nights I just dream of the ocean. God, I wish I was sailing again. Oh, I wish I was sailing again. Oh, yesterdays are over my shoulder, so I can't look back for too long. There's just too much to see waiting in front of me, and I know that I just can't go wrong. These changes in latitude, changes in attitude, nothing remains quite the same. Through all of our running and all of our cunning, if I couldn't laugh, I just would go insane. If we couldn't laugh, we just would go insane. If we weren't all crazy, we would go insane. Okay.
That's Jimmy Buffett.
It certainly is. I got a whole bunch of his stuff, but that's another time, another place. All right, so just want to leave you with one last two quotes. One is Colin Powell. He's one of my heroes. And there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. And learning from failure. Colin Powell. And of course we know about Steve Jobs. He said, if you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time. And that's what we want to be here. For the long time, the duration, right?
Yeah, we're not going to be an overnight success. It's going to take
a lot of hard work, gutsy work.
Yep.
And good control work here in the studio to make me sound good.
Right.
Okay, everybody. I want to share a couple of things. We're going to be signing off in a minute, but I am really going to emphasize turning your reality into dreams. My dad did it, and a lot of people that you know are doing it. You're probably doing it. So please share with me if some things that you want to have us talk about. You can get in touch with me at sephiam18@gmail.com, and I check on the podcast and our post, Joe's Lifelong Legacy, or it worked for me. But please, do good things. Go out and vote. That's probably the most important thing as Americans. We face our responsibility. It isn't a big responsibility to either go to the polls, send in your mail, go to the libraries. I've done that. Just do it, please. This is what this country is based on. Don't shirk your responsibilities. And I want to be with you to follow through on this. Thank you. God bless. And Have a good month or a good week, and your friend Bill signing off.